Is this visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. So now I'm coming to the second talk, and that's presenting the results of your thesis. So now in the IMRAD format, the answer to the question, what did you find, is the section which gives the results. Sir Bradford Hill, he asked those 4 questions. And the question number 3, that is, what did you find, is the answer to this is the result. So that is how in the IMRAD format you got the results. So you need to report the findings of your study, which is based upon the information which you have gathered as a result of the methodology or methodologies you have applied. So this is what you are expected to do in the results section. So today's talk, I'm going to talk about the key elements of the results section, how to construct a scientific table, what are the golden rules for reporting numbers, how to select an appropriate figure, and at the end of the session, you should be able to at least plan to write a clear and concise results section. So these are my objectives for today's talk. So if you ask anybody what is the most important part of a thesis, it is the results section. Not only your thesis, even in a paper, the most important part is the results section. And this is because this section only provides answers to your research question. Why did you do your research? The answers to that question comes in this. So the implications are that those papers with a clear and concise result section easily get accepted. There was one undergraduate student who said that I am writing a paper. So make sure your results section is clear and it is very concise. And then why? Because peers also give more attention to this section. So if I am working in a particular area and I see a paper which is coming in my area, the first thing I want to know is what they have found. So we also give more attention to this section. And if mistakes are found, your science is suspect. So therefore, make sure there are no mistakes in this section. So result section should be written very, very carefully. There are no 2 things about this. So there is something called ABCs of result section. We are very fond of ABCs for everything: accuracy, brevity, and clarity. So these are the 3. This is called the ABC of the result section. It should be very accurate, it should be brief, and it should be very clear. However, this is mostly for a paper, a scientific paper which you are publishing. In a thesis, brevity can be often overlooked because you don't have that, the page constraints are not there. So you can go ahead and give a little more clarity in a thesis that can often be overlooked. So often when you're writing results, again, you look at it as 3 parts. Your result section. First will be the baseline characteristics of the study. The second section is to answer the research question. So you, in your objectives, you have asked a research question. So the second part of your result will answer the research question. And the third part, it will describe any other findings which you may have found in the study. So these are the 3 parts. Initially, the baseline characteristics of your study subjects or participants. Second thing will answer the research question. Thirdly, you will describe the findings. If you divide your results section into these 3 parts, you will be very clear about it. So let's come to the elements. What are the elements of a result section? There are again 3: text, tables, and figures. These are the 3 elements of writing results. So the text tells the story. Tables summarizes the evidence because you can give all the figures, isn't the numbers. So it summarizes the evidence, and figures tend to highlight the main findings. Now, tables are generally suitable for displaying information about a large number of variables at once. If you see, if you give baseline characteristics, you will give age, weight, height, BMI, this, everything. So large amount of data can be given at once in one table. Graphs are good for showing multiple observations of individuals or groups, which will really stand out, isn't it? So you use all the three elements in results, both or text, tables, and figures, to display your results. Okay. So I just took a paper of the NEJM. It is just a paper. I just took it off. I mean, there is nothing specific about this. So if you look at the results section of this paper in NEJM, you will find that the results, they first describe the participants. So here they have given some text. They have given, there will be a figure. This is a table. So I told you three elements: text, table, and tables and figures. So tables, can you see? There's a table, the first table, where they are talking about the demographic characteristics they have described. And then there can be figures. So figures can be anything. It could be graphs, it could be photographs, it could be algorithms, it could be diagrams, it could be graphics relating to, if it is molecular data or some kind of crystallographic structure, or histology, photographs, photomicrographs, or anything like that. Okay, so figures could be anything. So in this same paper, these were some of the graphs which we found. So text, tables, and figures, these are the three ways in which you will always display your results. So the next question is, how do you arrange or organize the results? It's fine, I will tell it in these three ways, but how am I going to arrange or organize? Design the section as if you were telling a story. So generally stories means we will start long ago, or so the chronological order is important. So start chronologically, continue logically till the end with what was found. And then you lead the reader through the story by using a mix of all the three elements: text, tables, and figures. The cardinal rule of result section is, it is better to err on the side of excess, so that you give more detail, so that the reader can easily comprehend your findings. This is what I told you. In a thesis, you have enough space. So most importantly, the reader should be able to understand your findings. That's the most important thing. And I'll just give you an example. If you look at the text, I'll start off with the text, what we were saying. So I told you initially there are three parts. Part one is to describe the participants, isn't it? That is exactly what they have done in this paper. In the results section, the first part is to describe the participants. The second part is to answer the research question. So in any paper also it is like that. In your thesis also you should try to do that. The same thing what I told you. They have used both. They have used text. Here they have used figures, and they have used tables. Can you see? So they have used text, they have used figures, they have used tables. All three things have been used. I don't know who is writing this. I don't know who's writing that. Okay. Anyway, so text, table, and results, all three things will come in a paper also. So if you look at the text is chronological. See, he has started July 20, between this July and November, we screened so many people. So many people were randomized at 152 sites. So there is a chronological thing, and it is logical because he's first describing his data. How many African American, how many Hispanic, what were their body mass index, and so on. Okay. Then he is also using text, tables, and figures. This is the text he is using. He is using figures here. He is using tables here, as you can see. So all three things are being used for explaining the results. So this I have put another slide so you can see how he is chronologically talking, and here at the end he is coming to cutoff date. So started in July 2020, and then he is going through at the end of cutoff date how many participants he had. So he is giving figures, and then he is talking about he is using all the three things. So one of the things when you want to start organizing the results, one of the things which you can do is you can prepare what are called dummy tables. See, because the result section, you can write it only after the data analysis is done. It is not something you can write before because you don't know what you are finding, isn't it? So you can't tell your student you start writing your results in the before you have finished completing doing your data collection or doing your data analysis. But one thing you can tell your resident is to prepare this dummy tables because that is the first step in writing the results, and dummy tables can be done much earlier. Okay, so what are dummy tables? Dummy tables are these planned tables and figures which uh, which are also called dummy tables. Planned tables and figures, basically it is nothing but just an outline of a table or figure which will be presented in the result, and then it has only empty cells. You have to populate it after data analysis. But what it helps you do is it helps you think about your the results, how you are going to present your results. It makes you start thinking. This is a good if you look at this reference which I have given, it's a pretty good reference. Please, if you have time, from Australian National University, how to develop a quantitative data analysis plan. So just take a look at it. So this the advantage is it gets you thinking how your results will be displayed, and after data analysis, you simply can copy paste the tables and figures once you have populated the cells. So dummy tables is a good way of starting to plan your results. This is an example of the dummy table. As you can see, this is, this is a study population according to total daily screen time. So the title is given there. What are the findings they have given there, and it is all empty. So when the study is finished, they will put what is the N and percentage and things like that. So this is what is known as a dummy table. So I told you that the first part of the results, you should start characterizing the study participants or objects. Why it is done? Because you want to assess their representativeness. So if you have more than one group, you must say whether they are comparable. So let's say you have a control group and a study group, or you have two groups. You want to know whether they are comparable, no, at baseline. So that is the reason why you give a the characterize the study participants, and always use a table to describe the baseline characteristics. So part one of your results will be baseline characteristics. I'll just go off a little bit into this. So in your baseline characteristics, you might say the group consisted of 41 males and 37 females, right? So how will you write this? Will you write it as a sentence in text form, or would you like to put a bar diagram, or would you like to give a pie? Can you please write in the text box? I want to see what you are writing. Can you write in the text box? Can some of you write in the text box? No? No one wants to write. Okay. Okay. So generally what we see is in the thesis, we generally see people present this information as a pie chart. Okay. Or sometimes as a bar, but almost never they will write it just as a sentence. The point what I want to make is that in a thesis, please don't use a pie chart to just denote male-female ratio. You don't need that. It is just a sentence, and just write it like that. That is good enough. Okay. Now, most of the time people will put one pie. I have seen that is not necessary. And why I'm telling you this is this you will find this very often. You will find it in newspaper. If you look at India Today, Newsweek, everything, you have these wonderful diagrams, which are this is meant for public information, like lay press, newspaper, just to have people catch their attention. Why we say don't use it in the thesis is because in a thesis or in a publication, space is very important. So you should not waste space. So the space taken to simply put one pie chart is this much. It will take at least 10 lines, whereas you need only one line to write what is the number male, female. So that is a reason why we say don't use this in a thesis. Now let me come to constructing a table. This is going to take a little bit of time. Every table should have a table number and a title. Please remember that. Every table should have a table number and the table number should be continuous throughout the thesis. If you have a table in your introduction, that will be table number 1. Then the tables in your review of literature will be 2, 3, 4 like that. If you have any tables in your review of literature, and when you have it in your, if you have it in your methodology, it will be continuous throughout the thesis. Okay, you don't start fresh numbers for each section. Now the title of the table should be short but complete. For example, you might have something, baseline characteristics of the study participants. It is acceptable. But if you have something like efficacy endpoints of both groups, this is short but it is incomplete. So you need to have a table which is complete, right? Like what I have given before. So make sure that your tables have a title and the title should be short and complete. Also, the tables will be numbered by Arabic numerals. Don't use Roman numerals. Use Arabic numerals. These are all conventions which which I am telling you. So this is what it is. If you see the same study I am taking as an example from NEJM. So table 1 and they have given the title. This is the title which they have given. Can you see the title? They are using the title case like I discussed last time. My class which I discussed. So they are using the title cases. This depends on the different journals. Some journals they expect only sentence case, but it would be a good practice for us to stick to title case. And can you see they are given the table number in Arabic numerals. This is short but complete. Characteristics of patients at baseline according to treatment assignment and level of respiratory support they have put. So in the table, this heading which is there for on the left side, which you are going to put all the things, it is called the stub. And then these are the column. These are the 2 columns. And here what you have, this dexamethasone, usual care, these are the subheadings, column subheadings. So you can have column headings and for each column you can have column subheadings. So these are the column subheadings which you find here. So this is called the stub. And as you can see under the stub, you have age, sex, like this, race, ethnic group, all the things are going on under that. Okay. Now, the table number of all tables should be quoted in the text. So generally what people write is baseline characteristics of the study participants are provided in table 1. Please don't write like this. This is not a good way of writing. Okay. Rather, if you want to refer to table 1, you should write diabetes mellitus and hypertension are the comorbid conditions of the participants and the number of participants with these conditions are comparable between the 2 groups within brackets table 1. Okay, so don't write like this, but you should write like this. Okay, all tables should be quoted in the text. So if you have 7 or 8 or 10 tables, all these tables should be quoted in the text. So if you look at this, what I told you in the previous slide, see how they have quoted table 1. The median age was 52 years and 42% of the participants were older than 55 years of age. Table 1 and table S2. They are not saying the age of the participants is given in table 1 and table S2. They are not saying that. They are giving some information and then they are referring you to look at the table. They are giving the result and they are asking you to refer to that. Okay, so that is what I meant in my last slide. How to construct a table number 3. All columns should have a heading like this. These are the column headings. Of course, this is the stub. This is the column headings. And there should be no column without a column heading. Don't have columns without a column heading. If the name of the group is a column heading, mention the sample size in parentheses. So like this is standard therapy, new intervention. Therefore, you have to give the sample size in parentheses. N is 234. This is the same thing which they have also given in NEJ. So now you might ask me, which one should come first? Should we first write, the first column should be the standard therapy, and then we compare it with the new intervention. Generally, the convention is the control or the standard therapy should be first, and then comes the treatment. This is the convention. But nowadays, many journals do not follow this. They usually put it is mixed up, or they really don't give that much importance to this. But convention is the control should be always told first. I mean, this was the teaching during my time, but it is no longer held so much. People don't follow this too much nowadays. Okay. For each unit, you must mention the variable. For example, age means you have to give year. Weight means kg. So for each unit, please mention the variable in parenthesis or whatever way you want to mention it. This is very, very important. Do not give variables without the unit. It doesn't make, don't say weight and just give the number. We don't know whether it was kilos or pounds or what we had used. Okay, so that's important. So the abbreviations for these variables should also be the standard variable, a standard abbreviation. For example, kg is for kilogram. You can't write kilo, KILO, or you can't put capital KILO, or for year you can't write YRS and things like that. So there are standard abbreviations which you need to use. Please use them. You can get it in this APA publication manual, or any of the websites will give you the kind of abbreviations which you need to use. So if you look at this, can you see here age? They have said mean and year. So clearly they are saying this number is the mean plus or mean which is given in years. So the units are given. Okay. Sex they have given number, and within brackets the percentage. So when you write like this, this is the number and this is the percentage which they have put in bracket. So similarly, if you see distribution, number and percentage. Here mean, year. So here you know what this is. Okay. So this is what I wanted to tell you. And then the fourth one is don't leave any cell blank. And you align your columns by the decimal points or this plus minus sign. So this will look neat. Okay. So age, year, weight, height, whatever you are giving, make sure that you are aligning it like this so that it is here. What people do generally is you center justify. When you do that, sometimes it looks very bad. So make sure you align it like that so that it is all properly aligned. Okay. Fifth point is superscripts need to be explained in the footnote. So you can put a superscript if your P is less than whatever it is, but you need to write it like this. P is less than 0.01 as compared to standard therapy, the standard treatment group. So you need to expand abbreviations in the table, even if the full form has been provided in the text. Why? Because every table should be standalone. So please make sure that is what it is. Provide details about the data, and then so you need to say values are mean plus or minus standard error or standard deviation. Whatever it is, you need to write what the values are. So if you're giving mean, make sure you write whether it is standard error or standard deviation, whatever you are giving. Okay. So if you look at this table and you look at the footnote, you can see how much detail they have given. Plus minus values are means plus or minus SD. HIV denotes human immunodeficiency virus. So they are not taking it for granted. Everyone knows what HIV is. IQR is interquartile range and so on. And if you look at superscripts are explained in the footnote. So here, if you see here, they have put severe kidney impairment and they have put 2 asterisks. Below they are writing, these 2 asterisks mean severe kidney impairment was defined as an estimated glomerular filtration rate, whatever it is. So superscripts are explained in the footnote completely. The reason is because you want your table to stand alone. That is the reason. Table should stand alone. That is the reason why you are giving so much of detail so that people don't have to read anything if they want to think. So again, we know that doing research is 90% hard work, 10% results. So thinking about how you are writing it, you are somewhere here. Okay, 10% writing. What you should do it.
കള്ളത്തരം പറയരുത്. ആമി പോയി എന്റെ മീറ്റിംഗ് ആമി പോവടുന്ന്.
Okay, someone can you please mute your phone? Someone who is talking, right? So the golden rule for constructing tables and figures are all tables and figures should stand alone, right? Because you need to be able to interpret it. And generally we tend to skip the text and look at the tables and figures. So that is why it should stand alone. And then these should follow a sequence. Use the fewest numbers of tables and figures to tell the story. Journals have a restriction of tables and figures. Thesis, there is no limitation. So you can go ahead and write as much as you want. So tables and figures are expected to make them self-explanatory. So if you are having a pie, not only the slice of the pie which is saying that this has been eaten, but this has not been eaten, because it needs to be self-explanatory. That is the reason why we are telling all this. So now the first part I said is about the participants. You will explain the people who participated in your study. Now we are coming to the second part. That is, you are going to answer the research question. Okay. Your main question, you are going to write the results which are going to answer that and report the results that support the hypothesis. And also if you have results which refute it, you are expected to write that. So all the results which you are going to answer, you need to put it in. So that is the second part. Now, what are the do's? Every paragraph try to address one topic from the most important to the least important. Okay, this is when you are answering the research question. You start the paragraph with the topic sentence. Again, I have told you what a topic sentence was last time. And if several variables change in the same direction, just say all these are changing like this. Instead of saying this is changed, increased, this increased, this increased, simply list all the variables and say these all increased. So avoid duplication of data, that is tables, text and figures. This is very important, which is almost never done in a thesis. Data should be given, data or your results should be stated only once. Do not write the same thing as text, table and figures. So this is very important. I also said, do not write the results are presented in table 2 and 3. And don't state data without reporting the results also. Okay. So data are factual. Results state the meaning of the data. And this is what I mean. So in 14 untreated individuals, the mean blood glucose was this. In 16 patients that drug X treated with drug X, it was this. This is not the preferred way of writing results. The same results can be written like this. The mean blood glucose was 50% lower in patients treated with drug X than in untreated individuals. This much versus this much, P is this much. So this is a better way of writing the same results. Both are the same, but this is not preferred. Why? Because the implication of the data is not clear. So the readers have to make their own conclusions. Here it is very clear. When you give the patient that drug X, the blood glucose falls by 50%. So this is why when you are writing a result, you must try to interpret, you must try to give the implication of the data which you will write it, which should become obvious when you are writing the result. Okay. So this is the same thesis. If you look, the data is given in text, it is given in table, it is given in the form of a figure. This is commonly done. In every institution, it is done like this. You write text, then the same data is given in table, same data is given in figures. All three are perfectly done, but it is not necessary. So you need to write you give it either as table or either as figures, or if you want textually give it as text. Not necessary to give in all three forms. In fact, in JIPMA, there was one department, they used to expect people to write in text, then a table, and then it should be pictograms. That HOD had a very fondness for pictograms. So that person used to insist on a pictogram for every part of the data also. So coming to style, report the results in past tense, present tense to refer to tables and figures in the text, and numeric results not only as derivatives but also as absolute numbers. So supposing you are having few people, like 7 out of these people have this thing, there is no point in saying, giving it as 25% or 30% to make it look big. So make sure that we also know what the absolute numbers are, and don't use words, qualitative words, loosely, and these non-technical uses of technical terms should be avoided. If it is significant, means it should be statistically significant. If it correlates, means the test for correlation should be significant. Okay. So this you can read up from ICMJ recommendations. So some golden rules for reporting numbers, many of you might know it. So if you are writing less than 10, it should be written as words. For example, if you are writing 876, it should be in words. And if it is more than 10, then you can write in numbers. If you are beginning a sentence, then you should write it as a word. So 20 participants, don't write in figures 20. It should be in numbers. It should be in words. Decimals should have a leading 0 and not a trailing 0. So 0.05 is correct, not 0.05. Okay, so it should have a leading 0. This is the decimal. Decimal should have a leading 0 but not trailing 0. So 0.1 is correct, but 0.10 is wrong. Okay, so 0.1 is correct, but 0.10 is wrong. So you don't need to have a trailing 0. Then there should be a space between the number and its unit. So 120 space milligram per deciliter. Generally people write it like this, that is wrong. Then there should be no space between the number and percentage symbol. So 35%, there is no space between that. It is not 35 space percent. Okay, these may look very trivial, but these are the ways in which you need to report numbers. Okay, so again, percentage, please report only to 1% or at the most 2 if you are using a very very small number or very extremely sensitive kind of data which you are getting. Otherwise, to one decimal place it is enough. You don't have to say 10.4.2, and then don't imply a greater precision than your instrument. There's no point. Mean reduction in blood pressure was 12.2.246 millimeters per mercury. Okay, so this I am actually very particular about this, that because simply you will find people reporting to 3 decimal places and all that. That is not at all required. So now I'll come to how to select the appropriate figure. So now what you should know is there are many software programs, there are huge number of choices for figures, but you need to choose an appropriate one which is simple and easy to interpret. That is the most important thing. So you can have different things. You can have line diagram, bar chart, pie chart, scatter diagram, anything you can choose, but use something which will show your figure as the best possible thing. So this is a line diagram which shows the time course of an event. This is from this paper from BMJ. Very clearly you can say, so these are the residents, this is vaccination coverage, and this is the time. So it generally used for time course of events. Simple bar diagram where you can present comparative data of different groups, as you can see. And then you have these bar diagrams. You must remember, you must have error bars because the variation should be mentioned. There is no, so this will be the mean. If this is the mean, here you can see mean writing score. This is the mean. So what is the variation? Because as scientists, we are keen to know what the variation is. So please make sure you put the error bars. Then you have histogram to show the frequency distributions. Again, very commonly used histogram. You can use a scatter diagram to show relationship or association between two continuous variables, as you can see. So you can choose what you want to use. Now, one of the things which you must do is you need to avoid these 3D pie graphs. Again, very commonly used in 3D pie because it looks very. The reason why we say don't you avoid 3D pie is because it's very difficult to find out the proportions to a naked eye. So whereas if you have a 2D pie, that is the best. So please make sure you tend to avoid 3D pies or have this kind of complicated figures, because figures should be easy to comprehend. If you have something like that, nobody will want to, it takes a lot of time. This is a figure which I just took from BMJ, recent BMJ, and you can see just because it is in a reputed journal, it doesn't mean the figure is good. It's so complicated for anyone. It will take you at least 1 hour before you figure out what they are trying to say. So try to keep your figures simply, okay? Why? Because you need your representation should be understandable without any interpretation. So this fellow is showing his figure to the guide and she is saying, oh, wow, it is a huge effect. So he's actually jumping inside because that means that she is understanding it without an interpretation. So this is a table which you can see age-wise prevalence of anemia. And rather than having a table, if you have a chart, it is much better. You will know in one glance, you will be able to say which age group, 12 to 13 is having maximum prevalence of anemia. Okay, so similarly, this is a table, but what they have done, too much of, after the decimal, too much of numbers are there. There is no need for that kind of a thing. Same thing given as a bar, same thing given as a horizontal bar. So choose the kind of figure or table which you would use, which will give your thing in a best way. Again, they have chosen 2D bars, which is not very good. Simple they have chosen 3D bars. Simple 2D bar will be good enough. So you should be able to choose that, which is better. Similarly, when you are using bar diagrams, make sure you use stark contrasting colors or designs. Even if you are using only black and white, it is fine, but make sure the designs are good. See, if you put something like this, between this and this, there is not much contrast. So use some designs which is very contrasting. Similarly, light blue, dark blue, you can't make out, but this kind of color you can make out. So use stark contrasting colors to write visibly. So tips for better graphs: use very little non-ink data. And what do I mean by non-ink data? This is non-ink data, where you have this axis is put very boldly. It is all in gray color. So you should have minimum of this. Plus, if the graph is ending here, this is okay. But sometimes graph will end here and the whole graph, the tick marks will go on for another 3 or 4 this thing. So that is meant by non-ink data. Use very little non-ink data. Axis should intersect at 0. Of course, these were two different things, but otherwise make sure if you have two variables, the axis should intersect at 0. If it is not intersecting, make sure you make it very clear what the axes are. Scale should also be very clear. Just like in a table, you put all the units, your scale should be very clear. What is it? Is it months? Is it hours? Is it a percentage? What is it? Please make sure that each axis should carry a label. Labels should not be in all capitals. Again, people like to put the labels in capitals. Please don't use capitals. And pattern used for each group must be consistent across each figure. So why I'm saying this, supposing you in your thesis, if you are having some bar diagram, and in one bar diagram you are having the control is green color and the test group is red color, please have the same coloring for all the other figures also. Don't keep changing from green and orange to yellow and blue and things like that, because the idea is that there has to be some consistency. So whichever pattern you are using for a group, make sure it is consistent across figures in your entire results. And of course, variation must be shown. This I also told you. So avoid the temptation to use 3D graphs because it interferes with the interpretation, as the eye cannot easily make out relative size. So this should be only 2D, just like this. Having it like this doesn't add anything more to your this thing. It is more complicated if you write. So use simple diagrams. And if you are using photographs, make sure that identity is masked. You have written informed consent for publishing a masked photograph. And if you are using radiographic images, remove the patient identification information. Many times we forget to do that. So please make sure this is done. And in photographic images, you might have anything, ECG or gel, electrophoresis, gel pictures, histology, anything could be there. So in these photographic images, start taking photographs as you collect data. Many times what happens, if you come back and try to take the photograph, you won't find it. So don't leave it at the end. Start taking the photographs, collect it and save it. Do not try to send it as WhatsApp images because it loses out on quality. So therefore you take, even with the phones nowadays, you can take good quality images. Please import it into your your drive or something and keep it there, because you need high quality, high resolution images, and it should have the full tonal range of colors. If you are using going to use color, and the area of interest should be the center of the picture. If you are pointing to a cell or some kind of cells, it should be in the center of the picture. Include a legend which explains the features included in the picture. Labeling should be unobtrusive, contrast with the background, and all labels should be printed, not handwritten. Okay. So these are about photographic images. For example, in histology, can you see the arrow is very clear. They are pointing to that. They have given details about this. So you need to take high quality photomicrographs, properly labeled, and the point of interest should be with arrows. So detail labeling is very important, like what they have done in these pictures. And you might need to also tell what the magnification is. So what are the points assessed by the examiner in the results? Examiner will see whether there is agreement between the text, table and figure. So if your text says I am having 215 participants, and in your table you are, when he adds up, he finds that you are having some 240, he will catch you. Again, try not to repeat. Then data given in greater accuracy than the measurement. Central tendency variation, you have to mention whether you are, say, doing standard deviation or standard error or what it is. And if you are doing ANOVA, they will expect you to give F value. And if you are mentioning unexpected results. So this is when you get comments from examiners, don't get frustrated. Look at the comments. I've had people who have come to my room and said, Madam, this person has written like this. They'll come and vent all their frustration on me. The point is, that's okay. Sit down calmly, look at the comments and try to give a reply to that. So to summarize, text tells the story, table summarizes the evidence or the data, and figures will highlight the main findings. So choose the most appropriate element to describe the given results. You do not have to repeat it in all 3 times. And then 3 components will be baseline characteristics first, answer to the research question, and any other finding. These are the 3 components. And report only those results which can be supported by data that has been collected and analyzed. Do not report any results which has not been collected by you or not analyzed. Okay. So again, I told you that you have to be very careful, because if in your materials and methods there is a particular number of subjects and that suddenly increases or decreases, people will tend to question that. So they say that if you torture your data long enough, it will finally confess. So thank you very much. It's been a very long lecture. I had quite a few slides, but I'll be happy to answer any questions if you are in a mood to ask. Otherwise, you can send an email. Thank you. Yeah. Yes, please. Any questions you want to ask me? Anyone? You can unmute and ask.
Ma'am, good evening, ma'am.
Good evening.
Ma'am, I'm Dr. Bhavani. Ma'am,
Yes.
may I know what is error bar, ma'am?
Okay, error bar is when you is in that bar chart which I showed you, there is a kind of a line at the top with a kind of a lid. Okay,
Yes,
so
ma'am.
you have a bar chart, and in that bar chart you will have a small line, and a top there will be a small that is called an error bar. Yeah, that denotes the standard deviation or the standard error. Whatever is your dispersion, it will mention. For example, in your bar chart, if you are giving the figures of means, so the mean will be the bar. So how do you know
Okay.
what is the whether it is what is the standard deviation or standard error? That is denoted by the error bar.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah. Anyone else? Any other questions? Anyone else? Any other question? Otherwise, anything else you want to ask about the results? Okay. Rituparna, shall we close then?
Okay, ma'am. Because there is no question, we can close it.
Yeah. Kindly share the link of 28th lecture. Okay. It has not been put up. I mean, we have not yet put it up. Let's. Yeah. Anyway, we could get access to the introduction part. So, if the thing is, we'll put it up in our YouTube channel, and then we can give you a link. Okay, so that we can do. Any other things? Otherwise, okay. Otherwise, we will just say I thank you for listening. And my next week I will be this thing discussion as well as references. Okay. So thank you very much for joining. Have a good weekend. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.